Let's welcome in our pal, Danny Kanell, CBS Sports HQ, NFL analyst. And Danny, we want to get your thoughts on FSU, LSU, on everything. But first, Deion Sanders in Colorado. Perloff and I were just talking about the realistic expectations for them, because I see the unknown of their roster and think this could have huge potential, huge upside. Perloff thinks it's going to be impossible for them to all come together in a season and gel. What do you think?
I lean more with Perloff on this one. So I had a little beef with Deion over the last 24 hours because he was almost like denying that he started his career at Florida State. Like, he was talking with a reporter and she said, "I'm a Cane, you're a Knoll." And he goes, "I'm a what?" He's like, "I didn't get my degree from there." And then he was like talking about Talladega with HBCU, where he got his degree from, which was awesome. But it was kind of odd. But I think Deion has a method to his madness with everything that he does, right? And there's a camera everywhere he goes. I think the one thing about Deion that is misunderstood is behind all the smoke and mirrors, behind all the Louis luggage and gold chains and sunglasses and all the flair, I think he's a really good football coach. I do. And I think he's an old school football coach. Like, I think he gets after his guys. He's very disciplined. He holds them to a high standard when it comes to like being on time and stuff that matters. But I do think it's going to take some time to turn around that roster. There's continuity that's involved here that I think there'll be some growing pains. Travis Hunter, who's one of the best players, it was a 5-star number 1 recruit in the country that he stole from Florida State, that took to Jackson State, brought with him to Colorado. They're talking about him having to play 2 ways, and maybe he's a defensive back, but he might be playing more at wide receiver because they need him to. They don't have the guys that can just be true wide receivers. So they need every athlete that's out there to be contributing that much. So I think I think next year is the year you'll see the leap. But I think this year could be a little rough. Plus, Maggie, the schedule is brutal. Like, there's a very real possibility they could start off 1-4. There's significant underdogs, in 4 out of their first 5 games against really good teams. Then I wonder, like, in a team that's been bought and recruited, because we can do that. We can say this now. It's always happened, but now we can say it. Like, you go there to win a championship. What happens when you're 1-4? Are you still bought in? Are you still going to work every day and, come with the same mentality and attitude? So I would love to be wrong, but I actually think they go under their win total of 3.5. So I think it's going to be a long year for them.
Wait, Danny, the FSU on FSU crime here with you and Deion. So you said he's always intentional. Why do you think he would try to deny his FSU roots when he's one of the most famous players who's ever come out of that program?
So I've been trying to figure this out. I think there's one of 2 reasons. One, I think he really wanted to coach at Florida State. And I think he's upset that they didn't let him, give him the opportunity when they could have. The other thing is, he really, when he left Jackson State, he took a lot of heat and criticism from the HBCU family and from a lot of those universities. Why? Because when he took that job, if you remember, he's like, "I want to put HBCUs on the map. I feel called by God to do this, and I'm going to turn this. I'm going to bring attention to these programs." And then he left for the better opportunity, which I don't think anybody with a sane mind would fault him for. But I think he's taken a lot of criticism for that, and so he wanted to remind people, "Hey, I did get my degree from an HBCU." So there's definitely some motives behind this. I don't know. He replied to me, and I didn't really understand the reply. And I still have a tremendous amount of respect for him. I thought he could have handled it better. And of course, I'm biased. I'm a Seminole. Like, you could have given some love to Coach Bowden. You could have said, "Hey, I'm always garnet gold, but I did get my degree from an HBCU, and I'm thoroughly a Colorado Buffalo now." But I just thought it was awkward how he didn't even want to acknowledge that he was a Seminole.
It's interesting because I think this happens to a lot of guys in college who win at a high level and then have to get used to losing in the NFL. Deion, really, how is he going to lose? It doesn't strike me like that's something that he's had a lot of experience. I assume everyone's different, but do you think he's going to be able to learn how to do that effectively?
No, I don't think so at all, Perloff. That's why I think it's going to be must-watch TV no matter what happens, win or lose. Because if they win, we're going to be watching them celebrate, and they're going to have, they're going to be a story that's going to be fun to watch. If they lose, I don't think Deion, it's going to sit well with him at all. And I think he's going to be on his players. I think you see some players getting their butts chewed out. I think you see guys benched. He's going to do whatever it takes. So I think it's going to be like you're just going to want to watch and see. And I think it'll take its toll on him. Like, I think it'll be hard for him, but he won't find it acceptable. And I think he'll continue to weed out guys that aren't cut out for his program. That's why I think this year is more of. That's why I think it'll be the rougher year. I think that weed out process continues.
Danny Kanell is joining us, CBS Sports HQ NFL analyst, also joining us on behalf of Bet Online. And there's a lot of cool bets that you can make this week, that's for sure, Danny. I want to ask you about FSU and LSU. We'll talk about Utah, Florida as well, but looking ahead to LSU and FSU, because you're close to the program, as objectively as you can, give us the ceiling for FSU and then the biggest obstacle standing in the way of them reaching that ceiling.
Maggie, I'm thrilled that you just cast aside the Gators. I love that. Let's start with what matters. Let's do that. I do think it is the game of the weekend. Florida-Utah tonight's awesome, but I do think it's the game of the weekend. I think most, even an unbiased analyst would agree. Their ceiling, I think, is the playoffs. I think that's as high as they can go this year. I think there are 4 teams roster-wise that are set apart as far as like just NFL first round, second round, third round talent. Like when you look at them, it's Georgia, who's won back-to-back. It's Alabama, who's 90% of their roster is a 4 or 5 star. It's Michigan, who's won back-to-back Big Ten titles, and it's Ohio State. Like those 4 programs to me are really the schools that if you were going to make a national championship pick and wanted to go chalky, it would have to come from one of those. So I don't think Florida State's in that category yet, but I do think they have come to a place, which is great because it's been a while since we've been there, where they should be able to win an ACC title. They should be able to make it to the playoff. They should be able to beat a team like LSU, which they did last year. So I think they're there. And the obstacle to me, I think is playing on the road at Clemson. That's their toughest ACC opponent. I think it's LSU. Like those are the 2 biggest obstacles. If they get to the playoff, anything can happen. But I think the offensive and defensive lines, that's always what separates the national championship contenders. I mean, TCU is a great example. TCU is a team that could get to the playoff. They probably shouldn't have beat Michigan. I mean, Michigan had 2 pick sixes, but then you really saw like them get exposed because of the talent gap between Georgia and TCU. And it was an incredible season for them, but that's what I'm talking about. Like there's still a disparity in like a really, really good team that can get there and then the team that can actually win it.
All right, Danny, pretend you're an NFL team. You can start with one defender from Saturday night. I'll give you Florida State defensive end Jared Verse or LSU edge Harold Perkins. I know who won't be draft eligible. But who do you think is going to become the defensive star coming out of this matchup?
Oh,
and I mean,
both really good. So Jared Verse, there's some speculation. I'll give you a little behind the scenes because he did come back to Florida State, and there's been a lot of speculation about his draft grade when he was coming out. Like if you're a first rounder, as much as I love seeing him come back, or a top 5 or top 15 projected pick, I'd say like, what are you doing? I know NIL is nice, but you need to go to the NFL. There's some speculation that he might not have been a top 15 pick, that he might have been a later first round or second round pick, and that's why he came back. Harold Perkins, to me, he seems like he might be a top 10 pick. Like when he's ready to come out, he is special. They moved him to a traditional linebacker position where he was coming off the edge last year, which is one of the things, the unknowns of this game, which I'm sure concerns Mike Norvell. Like you better have a game plan, but how do you game plan for him if you don't really know where he's going to be lined up half the time? He is a freakishly talented player that I think will be chasing after Jordan Travis all night long. And that's probably the most significant, concern of mine and Jordan Travis's, on Sunday night when they square off.
Danny Kanell joining us on behalf of betonline.ag. We'll get to some of the betting aspects of this in a moment. Do you think Jaden Daniels from LSU, Danny, is he the best quarterback in the SEC?
It's a great question. I actually had an argument. I was at CBS Sports HQ and was talking with some people. I think it was Brady Quinn. We were arguing about this. What he's done so far, I don't think you can deny that. Will Rogers at Mississippi State has thrown for a gazillion touchdowns, but he was playing for Mike Leach, who, God rest his soul, has passed away. And Zach Arnett, their new coach, brought in a different offensive coordinator that's going to run a different system. There's a part of me too, Maggie, and this is my favorite part about, college football, is we see these stars emerge. And in the NFL, we see rookies kind of, catch fire, but most of the time, like Bryce Young, we know he's going to be good. Anthony, we kind of know what they are. Carson Beck, a quarterback at Georgia, we really haven't seen him that much. And he's trying to go for a three-peat. He's going to have talent all over the place. He might be the best in the SEC when it's all said and done, but we don't know. Alabama has 3 guys that maybe one of them comes to the forefront, and they're the best quarterback in the SEC. Connor Wegman, I like a lot at Texas A&M. Bobby Petrino took over that offense. He's always had great success with quarterbacks. He might be the best. But I think as it stands now with what they've laid down so far, I think it's got to be Jaden Daniels. You have to give him the nod.
Danny, there's 2 top 5 teams with kind of instability at quarterback. If you're an Ohio State fan or an Alabama fan, are you worried that you don't necessarily have your number one guy? Or can teams go on and win a title even if they're not sure by week 2 who their starter is?
These 2 programs absolutely can go on and win a title. I didn't pick either one of them to make the playoffs because of that concern. But, like, if I'm going to make a bet, I want to have a little more certainty than just maybe, like, one of these guys hit. And I think there's more of a specific concern with Alabama than Ohio State. I mean, first of all, Ohio State has Marvin Harrison Jr. They got Travion Henderson. They have weapons all over the place for that quarterback to work with, whether it's Kyle McCord, who's going to get the start, or Devin Brown. You also feel like Devin Brown was recruited within the program. He's pushing Kyle McCord. Everything you've heard has been these 2 quarterbacks are playing great, and they're pushing each other towards greatness, which is a good thing, right? And maybe Kyle McCord goes out there and he isn't great on the big, bright lights, but it feels like you have a really good option to go back to. At Alabama, they don't have that receiver that they had in Devontae Smith and some of the other guys, Henry Ruggs. Like, they had first-rounders all over the field. They've been lacking that recently. And the reason I'm concerned about them is they went through spring, and it was a 2-quarterback battle with Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson. And what'd they do? They started hitting the phone, and they were like, we need another quarterback in here for this battle. And there's a lot of, chat rooms are awesome. I love them. Message boards, wherever you go to find your information. There's a lot of speculation that they went after Tyler Van Dyke at Miami, Drake May at North Carolina. Like, they were trying to upgrade. And then those guys turned him down. And then Ty Buckner comes from Notre Dame, who was okay, but he's got familiarity with Tommy Rees. Like, there is more concern about the actual quarterback, whoever it is at Alabama, and is he good enough? But Bama's won with, average quarterback play before. It's been a while, but, if anybody could do it, it'd be Nick Saban.
Danny Kanell joining us on behalf of Bet Online. You got to check out Bet Online for updated college football playoff win totals, conference, Heisman, college football, week 1 lines. They've got it all. Tonight's game, Florida, Utah. This was a great game a year ago. Spread on this game, Utah favored by 5. Even though Cam Rising is not going to play in this game because of that ACL injury that he suffered during the Rose Bowl. Over-under is 44.5 points, so expecting it's a healthy amount of points there, Danny. Are we going to get a good matchup here again, and how do you expect this one to play out?
What do you like to watch, Maggie? Do you like offensive fireworks, or do you like a defensive slugfest? Because I think this one has ugly offensive football all night long. I like the under the best in this game. If you talk about the line itself has been vacillating all over the place. It was at one point 10. Utah was a 10-point favorite. Then, like 2 weeks ago, it was down to a field goal, and then it went up to 7, and now it's kind of settling in that 4.5, 5 range, and it's all because of the speculation around Cam Rising. And I think it's worthy. Like, he meant that much to this game because as a 6th-year senior who Kyle Whittingham has relied on to make big play after big play, he's not there. It puts a tremendous amount of pressure on a backup in Bryson Barnes, who's going to be taking his first meaningful snaps. Like, this is a massive stage for them to be on. So what do I think they do with that? I think they try to run some wildcat. Jaquindon Jackson's their running back, who used to be a quarterback at Texas. I think they run some wildcat. I think they try to run the football. Florida, Graham Mertz, the transfer from Wisconsin, he didn't have the best spring game. Like, it was kind of ugly. He got sacked 9 times. I think they're going to try to run the football. I think Graham Mertz, you'll see him checking down, a lot of controlled passing game. Both of these front sevens, I think, are really good. So I think it's going to be an uglier game that's lower scoring. So my favorite play in that game is the under.
Danny, did you have a chance to watch the Florida documentary Swamp Kings on Netflix?
Oh, yeah.
We were disappointed in it. Did you find it inaccurate?
Oh, my gosh. So Tim Tebow, I love Tim Tebow. But like, do we need another piece on Tim Tebow saying what a great dude and athlete he is? But like, we didn't need another one. And then like Urban Meyer, it felt like a PR piece that was made to rehab his image, which has really taken a pounding through his tenure at the Jacksonville Jaguars. So there was so much that it left you wanting more. Like, give me some more stories, give me some more dirt, give me some more. Like, I just wanted more when I left it. It just felt way too polished. But I'll tell you what, if you want the dirt, go watch BS High.
Yes.
On HBO Max.
Wait, Danny, we're having the director on later in the show. Because
I'm staying on. I'm supposed to do more of these. I'm doing it. Is insane.
Okay.
I am a peaceful person. I've never wanted to punch somebody in the face like I did Bishop Sycamore's football coach, who was scamming these kids. And now after, he's claiming that the documentary was like rigged against him. And he's the biggest con man you'll ever see. If you want to watch a doc and be entertained and also get your blood boiling, watch that one.
Wow, that was like the best tease for our guest who's coming up in about an hour. So you're welcome to hang out with us as we talk about our NFL preseason debate countdown. Yes, we're all had a very strong reaction to BS High and to Roy Johnson. How this guy's not in jail, we have no idea. Danny, thank you so much. Really appreciate this. Enjoy the weekend of college football before we get going with college and pro all at the same time.
You guys are awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate that.
Danny.
You can check out Bet Online for updated college football playoff win totals, conference, Heisman, and college football week 1 lines.